when I was young, when I was real young, studying grammar in elementary school, I knew that my spirit within me was not born with an alphabet, right? It did not know there was syntax and these words coming together. And I learned that in elementary school. And so I always questioned the difference between the spirit and the outside world that given me this communication skills, teaching me how to speak, what to speak, when to sign, when not to sign, always sign in a cursive form. These thoughts came through my mind, and I pondered them as a very young man, and I pondered them up to 1996 when I got to see it in the courtroom. But I always tell myself, what did I do with my own thinking to bring myself into this matrix? And I always think about that because that's a very fascinating question, is how did my consciousness end up in this vessel? When you get into studying some of the things that I got to study with David and some of the other things, you learn about that we are crystalline energy. When I learned in high school about crystalline energy and some of the things, that we are just part of a bigger consciousness of our ancestors. And we come up through their memories and their stories, which definitely influence our childhood and influence who we are as people. And now, with the advancement of some of the technologies with the monatomics, we can really look at neutralizing some of the bad storylines that are passed on through our crystalline energy, through our genetics. And that's where the divine space banking comes in, and some of the clean out that has to happen there for myself. Take care of myself first before I kind of give the world certain technologies. My eureka moment was I knew that I was not, because I always ask the question, why? Why am I writing this alphabet? Why am I in this school? Why am I learning this education? Why do I need this education? Why? And so I was always fascinated with the word why. And in comprehending what I didn't know, I when I ran into David had a different perspective. And, David was a pretty smart guy. And we wanted to talk, and we went into the space-time continuum of the dimensions of the paradigm of the prepositional phrase functions. And back then, he used to teach it a lot different. He would teach in the paradigm of the space-time continuum of folding cubes. And so he was instructed by the Rothschilds not to teach those functions anymore after 1996. So he stopped teaching in that paradigm. And I haven't gone into that a whole lot about how the dimension of space can fold out through prepositional phrases. I don't really get into that a whole lot anymore, but I definitely was fascinated by him and what he had to say that evening. It sparked a lot of things in that conversation about the things that I had learned about sentence diagramming at a very young age. And it just really fit with questioning why. So that was probably a real eureka moment for me. But when I took it into the courtrooms is where I took the grammar, prepositional phrases, and we were not writing in quantum. This was not quantum grammar. We didn't even know about quantum. So I became cognizant that as I was manifesting words in the courtroom, the court system itself, the judges, the clerks, the prosecutors, they were trying to dissuade me into their condition of thinking. I considered that mind control, and I was pretty anti-mind control because I like to figure things out myself, because I was continually asking the question, why? In the courtroom, the first time the judge came off the bench was Donald Hall in 1996 in Fremont County Courts. And it was a 5-year court battle. I won the case, but it was very demanding on me. And I found out what I didn't know. The judge played the game very well, and he taught me a lot. Every time he came off the bench, I learned later that it cost us 10 grand every time he come off the bench. So that was the fact that he would have the courage to do that, to challenge me to be a better person and educate myself. And I asked him in 2003, last time I had a conversation with him, 2004 actually. I said, Don, why did you do that? Why'd you come off the bench? Why'd you do all that? And he said, you know, Russell, he says, you're just worth it. He says, there's something about you. He says, when you get to DC, everybody's lying to you, but you already know that. He said, but you're just so worth it because you had the courage to stand there and take the bashings in the newspaper, take the bashings through the court. He says, anybody's worth it. Anybody's worth that has courage of the convictions to stand on their ground against what we do against society. It's worth it. He said, and I'll pay 10 grand any day of the week to come off the bench if that person's worth it. And I thought about that a long time. I think about it even now. I says, even though he's a fiction judge, that's a pretty neutral stance to not be judgmental against mankind, but to give everybody a chance. And that's why I do what I do for, the claim of the life system. And that's why I've done everything that I've done, is because everybody needs a chance. And so since everybody's worth it, that's why I've really put my best foot forward for myself and everyone else who would choose to join my system. And I don't force my system upon anyone. I just know the difference between correct and fiction. And I stand my ground against all the, censorship and all the things that society does to me. But that's okay, because I have the courage of my convictions and I know I'm correct. And I know where I'm going with this because I'm in a different space than what mankind wants to do. One thing I will give credit to my father, as he says, never go the way of the crowds. Always find your own path. As a child, I thought about that very hard. And I always lived my life that way, to take a different path than everyone else and to challenge, why is the crowd going that way? So when I watch these fake presidential elections and selections and all these things that are happening out to society and look at all the censorship towards me, I'm like, you know what? I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I don't really care if the world ever finds out. I just know that I'm going to live it all the way out. And I'm going to be in my divine space. And I set myself out to be the last free venture capitalist on planet Earth. And it's an actual thing. I probably will be the last guy moving around. If nobody, I want people to join me. But if they don't, I'm okay with that, because I'm good with, I love myself. And I know that I owe that to myself to be the last free venture capitalist. I owe it to myself to be the last man moving around as everybody's locked up. And I figured out how to do that. People throw stones at me, but I don't throw too many stones at people, because I just laugh. I laugh at people that try to copy me. I know that they're going to get theirs. They're going to go to jail for a long, long time. You can't fake me. I watch people try to steal my crypto-currencies and all the things that I've done there. That's all coming back. That's all going to lock them up. Just give it the divine space, because it's either true or it's not. I either did create all that in 2001 or I didn't, right? But the fact is I did. I wish the whole world would join me. But if they choose not to, that's on them. That's their fate. That's their destiny. They get to be locked up. They get to be told what to do. They don't get to be sovereign. And guess what? I'm cool with that. I'm cool if they all want to kill themselves. That's on them. That's not who I choose to be as a free being, loving person out here that loves my fellow mankind. I don't want people to die. I want people to live and prosper and get along and communicate and be fair to our fellow mankind, to love your families, to have honesty, and to control that which you do. Because I don't want to control any of you. I want you to control yourselves. And so we're up against a lot out here due to the fact of the games that are being played against us, both chemically, spiritually, and the mirroring systems of the social engineering through the podcasters who just mirror the negativity to project upon all of us. I'm doing a better job at turning all of that off, believe it or not. I'm a little frustrated to watch Elon Musk punch up a bunch of satellites because that changes different technologies that I have to bring to the table for myself to keep myself safe against their unified consciousness. Consciousness is going to be everywhere. Yeah, that's because they got satellites controlling our brains up above. So yeah, I can see where that may look like we have free thinking. They may look like it's free will, but it's not what they have planned for all of us. So I see those that plan that. I'm seeing them all dead, even as I speak now. I'm seeing their families and their blood all dying and being isotoped so that the blood cannot move freely anymore. I'm cool with that. I have those types of technologies where they're already in place in the galactic postal corporations. And so those things were built in 2007. I don't really manifest those out, but as we move into the divine space banking, there's new safeguard systems that you guys need to be aware of and new educations that have to be put in place to keep those who join the quantum system safe from those who would put their smart dust and their technologies. There's things that under projection that can be reversed back at people. And there's very dangerous people out there with dimensional moves. So I'm monitoring that as well, but trying to stay out of the negativity and trying to stay into the divine space of my fate, but because I don't want anyone to control me, right? I don't want others to control me, and I don't want to control any of you. I've set up a buoy system, and I would highly counsel to stay within that buoy system, because if you don't stay within the buoy system, someone else is going to ship you into the direction that they want you to go. I was smart enough and wise enough to set up a system that semi-paralleled, but then when we brought in the periodic tables, it jumped outside the time and space of the molecular structure of control of magnetism, and we could look at magnetism as a noun, not a verb. Even though it's in constant flux, we cartoon it in our minds to freeze frame to see the flux, which gives the fact jurisdiction over the verb. And I'm sure many of you don't comprehend what that is, but if you get further along in your quantum mechanics, you will definitely know that the fact has jurisdiction over verb. If you're in courtrooms and you talk to judges in this position about the magnetic flux of it being a noun, not a verb, and you explain that well to a judge, my judges will let you through because they comprehend I've done all this and presented all this back in 2003 in the state and federal levels across the United States. So they, being the fiction, have surrendered all their authorizations, and they've turned their authorizations over to their false god. They actually call their system, their AI system, at the Fortitude Hall at Fort Meade, which is the programming center for the AI systems. There's a lot of AI systems being put up. The Elon Musk and his satellite vectors that are projecting the negativity upon us, they will be defeated as well, because the AI system, their God, and they call it God, cannot create the monoatomics, and that is the right to rule. And it's an old storyline going way, way back. And for some reason, I was gifted that technology because people trusted me with that technology. And in writing those periodic tables, when they blow up the dome of the rock, it's going to be real tough for them to have the ceremonies by the Levi priests, because I basically put the big FU to them. When I explained that at the United Nations in 2003 with the diplomats of Israel, who I met with 26 times, they were pretty pissed off about that, and they were mad as hell. So they ended up kicking me out of those Israel embassies. It was quite fascinating. But once they saw the direction and the storyline that where I was going to create a condition of state, because once you move your frequency into that condition of state, you can defeat any robot because of your electromagnetics. They can't harm, and you can harm them.